So I know a lot of you ladies have experiences with men that leave you frustrated, confused, and disappointed. All right. And I understand why many women have either become discouraged with dating or even given up on it altogether. However, I want you to understand that you should not let the experiences you've had cause you to go away from what you truly desire, right? And understand that there is a way to better navigate these situations and have a better understanding of what these men are trying to communicate to you in moments where you may feel like you're getting mixed signals or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to clear up some of the confusing things that I've had you ladies express to me that you've heard and trying to get a better understanding of what that actually means. Now, let me say this. At the end of the day, everything needs to start with asking that man for clarification on his words, all right? Because we can sit here and speculate all these different things, but certain things have multiple possible explanations. And your best chance of getting a clear understanding is asking the guy that you're dealing with. Now, I get it. Some guys aren't going to provide you with that clarity. Some guys may be more confusing. I'll break that down as well a little bit later in the video. But do not neglect the need to simply ask, what do you mean by that? Okay? But with that said, let's get into some of these confusing things men say and what they really mean. So one of the big ones we got to talk about is when a man says, I really like you, but I'm not ready for a relationship. So a lot of women have, and of course, the words may not be the exact thing I just spoke, but some variation of expressing they like you, they enjoy you, whatever, but not ready for a relationship, not ready for commitment. A lot of women have gone through that. And a lot of women have expressed to me the reason why it's so confusing. It's like, if he likes me so much, why wouldn't he want a relationship? Why wouldn't he want to commit? That doesn't make sense. And instead, she starts to assume, well, either he's flat out lying, he's playing games, he doesn't really like me, he's just talking nonsense. But that's not necessarily the case. So let's break this down. One, let's start with the fact that he's saying, I really like you, okay? What you have to understand about men, that's very important, is that liking you does not equate to necessarily wanting to be with you in a committed relationship. The reason being is because committed relationship comes with a greater level of obligation, and it comes with the elimination of other options. Okay, let me say it again. Committing to you or enter a relationship comes with a higher level of obligation and the elimination of other options. So a man could really like you. He could enjoy you. But if he doesn't like you enough to feel like this is it, I don't want to entertain anything else, then he's going to still struggle to commit because he knows if I commit, now if I want to go out with another woman, it's going to be a problem. If I'm still trying to play the field, it's going to be a problem. So instead, he may try to keep you around because yes, he quote unquote likes you, but he is just not at that level. There's layers to it. There's levels to it with men. And you've got to remember that because I understand for a lot of women, once a woman feels like she really likes a guy, not all women, but a lot of women, once they feel like they really like a guy, to them, being in a relationship is a no-brainer, right? But that isn't how it goes with a lot of guys. So there's levels to this. So he's not liking you enough to want to eliminate those other options. But then also to be of a higher obligation to you. Because example I always use is like, if a guy is just kicking it with you, situationship, whatever the case may be, and you need help with something, he doesn't have the same level of pressure or expectation to be there for you, do for you, pour into you, if he's not your man, all right? If he's your man, he knows, and you need some help, he's got to be willing to do something about it. or it's going to be problems, or he's going to lose his woman. But in a situation, in a more casual dynamic, that's simply not the case. So a lot of guys, because again, though they like you, as in they enjoy some kind of aspect or multiple aspects about you, it could be conversation, it could be physical, whatever the case may be. There might be other things you provide, because if we're keeping it real, there's women out there who are providing for a man financially. There's women out there who, though he's not her man, she's cooking for him and making sure he's well fed, all these different things. So whatever the reason is, there's a reason why he enjoys having you in his life, but he is not into you enough. And I know that might hurt some of y'all who are dealing with this, and I never want this to hurt y'all, but I do want this to help y'all. And sometimes to help you is going to have to hurt a little bit. But yes, he doesn't see that next level with you. So he could be genuine and honest when he says, I like you, but I'm not ready for a relationship. Now, here's another aspect to it that we're going to throw out there. I have seen situations, and it does exist, where a man genuinely likes a woman, has a genuine desire to be committed to her, pour into her, but is not ready for a relationship because he does not feel like he is at the place he needs to be. Whether that be he doesn't have enough availability right now, maybe he's in school, maybe he's pursuing a higher degree, maybe he's building a business and it's taking up a lot of his time, whatever the case may be. Maybe he's taking care of parents. I've seen all kinds of scenarios. And to him, and even though you may say, but I will be okay, I'm fine, it's not a big deal, I'll accept it, he may not be comfortable with that because he knows he cannot give 100%, and he takes relationships serious, and not just takes relationships serious, he takes you seriously. But here's another thing to consider. Some guys will ignore you saying, oh, I can deal with it, because they've already gone through that before. They've gone through the woman saying, it's okay, I'm okay with you not having much time, only to get in a relationship with that woman and have that woman complain about the same thing she said she would be okay with, all right? You know, creating more stress and more issues, and then the whole thing blows up. So he may already have had an experience that says, yo, this ain't gonna work. Even though she's saying she's okay, it's just not. And he does not want to take that chance of making matters worse and then having less of an opportunity to try to make it work when he is more available or he's in a better position. So it can be either one of those things, but I think ultimately, whatever his reason is, it still boils down to he is unwilling or unable or not ready to give you what you're looking for. And you would be playing yourself if you think, if I just hold on to this until he's ready, everything will work out perfectly fine. All right. So here's another very common, confusing thing that men can say, but what they really mean with it. And that is what I consider the dreaded, let's go with the flow. All right. Now, for some of you, that may not necessarily be confusing. However, I have seen a lot of women get tripped up by it. I've seen a lot of women not see the situation for what it is when a man says something like that. Now, let's clear something up real quick. There's a lot of women who themselves have told a man, let's go with the flow. So some of you might be thinking, what the hell's wrong with that? Like, I've done it, or maybe that's all I want right now is to go with the flow. The problem is that when we take such a vague approach in dating, we're inviting a lot more chaos and messiness. Of course, some people survive and don't have any problems come of it, but many people end up in the process of going with the flow, becoming attached to somebody, unhealthily attached, to an individual who ultimately cannot or will not give them what they're really looking for. And that's why it's so tricky, and essentially you're playing with fire. So when he says, let's go with the flow, in the majority of cases, that is a man who probably is not looking to take this into a serious relationship, okay? Most, we're not saying all, but most cases, and he doesn't want to flat out say that, because the other reality that women have to understand, it reminds me of the whole discussion of when a woman says, well, if a man just wants to have sex, he should just tell the woman, and maybe that's all she'll want too, right? No matter how much women proclaim that, you survey men and they will tell you when they have attempted to be so straightforward, it has not worked out in their favor. Now, I'm not condoning not being straightforward. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just explaining to you why men don't continue on that path. And of course, depending on the type of man or caliber of man, if we're going to be real, that dictates how straightforward he can be and still get what he wants. Meaning, all right, if he's this super successful, good-looking, highly desirable man, he has an easier chance of being extremely straightforward, even in the most casual situations, and still getting what he desires. For the average man, it's not going to work in his favor. Plain and simple. That's why they don't do it, okay? So when men know they can't flat out say stuff, this is where things like go with the flow comes in. Because it's a way of you can't hold him to anything specific like, oh, I'm looking for a relationship or I'm looking for marriage. Because here's the thing, even if he is open to marriage in a general sense or open to a relationship in a general sense, because plenty times the same man who told one woman, let's go with the flow, could be dealing with another woman 3-6 months later and get in a relationship or even get married to a woman. So it's not that he's not generally open to these things, but he's not going to communicate that to you because he doesn't want to be held to that standard. You see? And in his eyes, even if there's a chance that he would be willing to take you serious and move forward, he still leaves room for that by not defining anything. But however, in most cases, it doesn't go past casual when he says, let's just go with the flow. All right. So essentially, he doesn't want any expectations. He doesn't want to be held to anything. He wants to remove the pressure ultimately. All right. And you as a woman have to be honest with yourself if you're really okay with that. As well as, again, I mentioned earlier, the problem is that if you accept the go with the flow, because you feel like that's where I'm at too right now, you've got to know yourself to understand where's the line that if you cross it, you're going to become attached to this man. Listen, there are some women out there, right or wrong, fair or not, there are some women out there who can deal with a guy and not become attached. It's just she's going to enjoy herself, keep it moving. She might have a bunch of other men on her roster. There are some of you, that's not who you are. You know you'll get caught up. You'll know you'll become attached. You'll know that even if he's not really the guy for you, if you spend enough time with him or if you sleep with him or whatever, you're going to start creating the image of him being able to be that guy. Only you can answer if you are that woman or not. You got to be real with yourself and don't play yourself by making yourself believe you can handle this when you can't. All right, so let's keep this thing going. And another confusing thing that men say, but what they really mean, is you're too independent. All right. So this is confusing to a lot of women because there's a lot of different information being put out there as far as what men actually want. So you'll have some people claiming they want a woman who's going to contribute just like them, who's going to go 50-50, who can hold up her end of the bargain, whatever you want, however you want to phrase it. And then you have other men or other people saying, no, they want a woman they can provide for, they want a woman who can accept their leadership, so on and so forth. And so because of that, what happens to a lot of women is, one, you have to understand that different men are going to desire different things. And more specifically, certain types of men tend to lean one way or the other. Now, again, this is not 100%, but typically, men who are very go-getters, self-driven, successful men tend to lean towards, they're not looking for you to be to carry the weight. They're looking to provide. They have no problem with that. Of course, they're looking for a certain energy from you in return, but they don't mind pouring into you in that way. The other men, we're just going to say other men, right, who may not be in that position are going to put more value on you being someone who's maybe willing to work, contribute to the household financially, because there's multiple ways of contributing to the household. But the guy who may not have it like that is going to be looking for a greater financial contribution in many cases, right? And so for that guy, he's going to be less concerned or less bothered by the perception that you are very independent. If anything, he may celebrate it. He may love it. You won't hear any issues from you, but then you may even have a situation where not only does he love it and celebrate it, he takes advantage of it. And that's just a guy who's a user. That's not even about his financial position. He's just a user. He's a manipulator. And he's looking to take advantage of you. And he's looking for the women who are independent. Okay? However, in many cases where if you are a woman who knows you want a guy who has a more provider mindset, well, that kind of guy is going to have more of a negative reaction to the perception of you being too independent. But again, here's where I want to clear up the confusion. The issue is not your ability to do for yourself. I think, I don't know if there's any, most men respect that. The issue is what comes along with the woman who does for herself and has now become this independent woman, all right? To where that woman tends to have more walls up. That woman tends to give off more masculine energy. That woman tends to not be as cooperative as some might say, right? That woman does not know how to receive. And I always say that when you can't receive from a man, you are essentially stifling his ability to love you and pour into you. And that's going to be a problem for a man who desires or even prides himself on being able to provide for his woman, all right? As well as you being so independent or you taking on a heavier burden, because I get it. When you're single, when you are living a life where you don't have many people you can lean on, you got no choice but to do for yourself. Cool. But the problem is when someone comes along who is willing to do for you, you've got to learn how to be able to receive that and not choke that out in any kind of way. And that's what a lot of quote unquote independent women do. So getting back to the point at hand, if he says you're too independent, he's essentially saying you're too closed off. In so many words, that's what he's saying. You're too closed off. All right? You're too trying to do it yourself. You're not allowing me to bring value into your life. You're not allowing me to love on you. You're not allowing me to have a place in your life where we can come together, because the key to a successful relationship is not independence, it's interdependence. We've got to be able to rely on each other. And everyone wants to feel like they're bringing value to the person that they care about. All right. So there's nothing wrong with the man who thinks that way, because think about it. If you were with a man that you could bring no value to, that you could do nothing for, it would make you feel some kind of way too. It would be a problem for many women too. Because if you actually care about him, like if you don't care about the dude and you're just taking advantage yourself, then that's a different ball game. But when you actually care and like him and you want, again, for him to see you in a certain light, but you can't find any way to pour into him, that would be a problem. So either way, both sides need it, but that is what's pretty much being communicated when a man says you're too independent. All right, now before I continue, be sure to take advantage of this special offer to join my special coaching program. Go to receivingmyblessings.com. You can click the link in the description or in the comments section. This program is helping women heal, find their purpose, connect with God more, meet higher quality men, you name it, it's going to change your life. So again, click the link in the description or in the comment section, or go to receivingmyblessings.com. Now, here's another big confusing thing that men say and what they really mean. and that is, I need some space. Now, I feel the need to say that this is one that you definitely need to follow up. I mean, I believe this is true for all of them, but you definitely need to follow up with the question of, what does that mean to you? How much space do you need? Trying to get as much specifics from the man as possible. Again, you may not always get that, but you've got to attempt to try, because I've seen so many misunderstandings from this, okay? And I've seen situations fall apart that did not have to fall apart because there wasn't more clarity and there were simply assumptions being made. So I need some space can really depend on what is going on or has been going on in that relationship. For example, what comes to mind right now is if a man is going through something tragic, that's very different than y'all just going through the ebbs and flows of relationship and all of a sudden he's like, yo, I need some space. So to be more concrete, if his mom, God forbid, passes away, right? Some people don't know how to handle that. The grieving process, the stress that comes along with it. Maybe he's the one that has to plan the funeral, deal with all these things, whatever. And he cannot deal with the obligation of a relationship or the dating process or whatever's going on right now and this tragic situation. So he may ask for space, simply basically meaning, yo, I need less pressure right now. I need you to give me grace essentially right now and give me room to do these things without it being held against me, right? But again, that's very different from you guys have been dating or in a relationship. You guys may have your ups and downs, an argument here, whatever the case may be, which isn't healthy. There's constant arguments, but anyways, and then all of a sudden he's like, yo, I think I just need some space, right? In that scenario, it's very possible that I think that one, he is considering if he really wants to be in this relationship or not, but he's not completely ready to let it go. And so it's easier to just say, and to kind of have to give himself more of a chance of you not completely getting away in case he comes to the realization that, okay, this isn't what I want. He may simply ask for space rather than a full out breakup, okay? Because again, he just needs a moment to get his head straight without you going completely away from him. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. Have I seen some men use the I need space as an opportunity to do some things on the side? Yes, all right? I do not want you to jump straight to that conclusion. And it's pointless to dwell on that possibility, especially if there's no proof of it. Like, you don't drive yourself crazy over something that at the moment you have no evidence of whatsoever, right? There's gonna be, in relationships, whether we like it or not, there's a lot of times where you have to give your partner the benefit of the doubt. You're only gonna make matters worse if you jump to conclusions, again, and there's no evidence of such things happening. But I'm just being real that, yeah, I've seen that happen as well. So again, I think it's important to, one, ask for more clarity on what this space is. Also, I think for some of you, you've got to look at that as essentially a blessing in disguise. Like, he's asking for space, and for some of you, you may have this initial reaction of freaking out and like, oh my gosh, he wants to break up with me, boom, boom, boom. But it's like, wait a minute, maybe you need a moment to think clearly as well. Maybe you haven't been seeing this relationship for what it really is. Maybe this is your opportunity to come to the reality that maybe he ain't for you, or to see more clearly what needs to be fixed. Now, I will say this before we move on. If he is asking for space and you are going to grant him that space, do not use that time to focus on the negative. Use that time to work on any issues you are aware of that have been lingering. Okay? So I'm just going to give an example. I'm not saying this is going to be applied in your situation, but let's say your man asks for space. And you know one of the problems y'all have had is bad communication. But let's be very specific. A big reason for that bad communication is because you got a slick mouth. like you don't know how to hold your tongue. You sharp with your tongue, and you be going at that man, and you be cutting them down. Okay, and in that moment, you may not realize how bad you are. But this is a chance to take a step back and be like, wait a minute, he has been complaining about this. Am I, a little rude and nasty when I speak? And I understand some of y'all might be saying, well, if he didn't do such and such, listen, two wrongs don't make a right. And this doesn't mean he doesn't have stuff he needs to work on. But you got to make sure you are showing up as your best self, okay? And you have a better chance if your fear and concern is that you're going to lose this relationship, right? Because he's backing away. You have a better chance of overcoming that concern by progressing in your better self than by dwelling in negativity, stress, and all this other nonsense that doesn't serve you any good. Okay? So be mindful of that, consider that, but definitely ask for more clarity. All right, so we got a couple more to go. And another confusing thing that men say is, it's not you, it's me. Okay? So some people have had to deal with this saying before. And I think majority of people look at that phrase as just a cop-out, just an excuse, as a way to deflect from the real issue, or essentially a way to let you down more softly. Like it's like, all right, I'm not gonna make this about you. It's just me. I'll take the blame, that way, because I don't wanna make you feel bad. I don't wanna have you crying, or at least I'm trying to lessen the chances of it. And in many cases, that is true, okay? It's just a way to soften the blow. But at the end of the day, it still boils down to he sees a disconnect here. He sees this not working, right? And I think one of the mistakes that women make is like trying to force a round peg into a square hole. It's like, yo, if this man is telling you essentially he doesn't see a good fit here, it serves you no purpose to try to gain his sympathy, to keep this, give us another chance, or to lash out at him or anything like that. I understand it can hurt. I understand it can suck. I understand that in that moment, you may not be grasping what the disconnect actually is, and he may not be providing that clarity in that moment as well. But I do think what you can follow up with that is asking, hey, was there anything specific that you felt doesn't fit well with us? All right. And again, that way you come at it from a more calm, open-minded approach. I think there's a greater likelihood that he'll be willing to give clarity. But if you just snap, lash out, start crying, all these things have a negative reaction, you lessen the chance of him being willing to open up further. All right. Now, I also want to mention that in some cases, it's really what he's saying. There are situations where I think people have to realize so many people are hurt. So many people have not healed. And that lack of healing makes it very hard for a lot of people to embrace love, real love, to embrace a really good person, all right? If someone is self-aware enough to know, I am jacked up, or I'm not in a good place, or I cannot be what this woman deserves, right? Even though he thinks you are amazing and awesome, he may feel like, yo, I'm only gonna mess this up. I'm only gonna give her less than what she deserves, and I don't wanna do that to her. I respect her that much, I value her that much, and I think the best thing to do right now is just let it go. Or he might still be dealing with some other crazy situation, and you may have come at him at a time that he doesn't know how to walk away from that. And I've seen that. I'll just give an example. I've seen people who the guy has a child with somebody. He's dealing with a lot of craziness with that. He still has conflicting desires of wanting to be with his child's mother because maybe he wants to have the vision of the family. He never wanted to have this, as he sees it, a broken household or whatever. But then you came along and you blew him away, and he was not mentally and emotionally ready for that, right? And I feel like there's some of you watch this who's going through that, who just went through that. This is going to resonate with you. And he does not feel like he can be with you right now. It's just a mess. And he may have somebody counseling him or talking to him like, yo, let that girl go. If she's a good girl, let her go right now. You need to handle your business. So when he says it's not you, it's me, he's being real. Either way, again, no matter what he really means, it still boils down to he is unwilling or unable, not ready to move forward with you. And all you can do is try to gain a better understanding and come to the acceptance that now is not the time for whatever the reason be. For some cases, it'll never be the time. For others, there may be an opportunity down the road. And that's why it's so important to stay connected with God so you can better understand how to navigate certain situations. All right. And so another, I guess we're going to say, confusing thing that men say and what they really mean is we can just be friends. All right. So the confusion will depend on what the situation currently is, right? And let's go with the one that tends to be the most confusing, and that is you've been dating this guy. You guys maybe have even slept together before, but maybe you've been having some ups and downs. And now he's like, we can just be friends. Let's just be friends, right? And to you, again, it may be very confusing if you go through that because it's like, yo, we have these good times. You know, clearly there's an attraction if we've been intimate. You know, he says he likes me, but why are we just choosing to be friends? Why aren't we figuring out how to work past this? Or why aren't we trying to make things better, right? And for that man, the issue may simply be, one, he could just not see a path forward to fixing this. And you may not be at that place where you realize that that is actually accurate. Because here's the thing, some people, I think there's one of the big problems we have in relationships and one of the big problems individuals have is not understanding that you are who you are. You are wired a certain way for a certain purpose, okay? And he is wired a certain way for a certain purpose, whether he fully realizes or not. And you can't just take any two people, put them together, and it's just going to work. As long as they want to make it work. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way, all right? Because I always say, because in order to make it work, if you're, and to give a more clear example, let's just say you're a woman who values being a homemaker, taking care of the house, taking care of the kids, you're domesticated, you love that, that's where your heart is, right? But you get with a man who wants you out there working 40 hours a week, doing all this other stuff, right? That is just not what you like. Now, some people might say, well, you should just be willing to get a job. But the problem is, if that's not who you are, even if you accept that role, because you're like, well, I like this man, I want to be with him, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm just here to have him take care of me, right? I'll go work. The problem is in you doing something that you're not wired for, you are going to become worn out, stressed, and very unhappy. And that's going to negatively impact not just you as a person, but the relationship. So it doesn't work in the long run because you're forcing the issue and not accepting who you truly are. And no one can suppress their true self forever. It's going to come out to the top. Now, I gave one small example. There's tons of different examples. And this is one of the big reasons why a lot of relationships or a lot of marriages end up in divorce, is because you have people trying to fit a role that isn't who they really are. Okay? So to get back to this whole we can just be friends, he may have come to the realization of, what I need from her, that's not who she is. So there's no path in trying to make this work. But for you, it's like, this doesn't make any sense. Why can't we make it work somehow, some way? Now, in other cases, the whole we can be friends can simply just be, I don't want to be in a relationship with this woman, or I don't have that desire for her. And I know that she, and if you're saying to this man, well, it's either a relationship or nothing, he may view being friends as like this middle ground constellation prize, basically a way to keep you in his life because he does enjoy you, he may like you, even though he can't or is unwilling to give you a relationship. All right? Now, he may be hoping to make some things happen within that friend's dynamic, or he may generally, there's some guys, believe it or not, who generally just want to keep you around as a friend, who see value in you as an actual friend. Though they may not be fully against crossing a line with you, they are also okay with that line technically not being crossed. I hope that wasn't confusing in itself. But the bottom line is, yes, it can be either one of those things. And you as a woman, I think the mistake I've seen too many women make is trying to accept the friendship dynamic with someone they know they have deeper feelings than that for, and you can't handle it. You're trying to trick yourself because you want to keep them in your life, but it's like, yo, all you're doing is making yourself more emotionally unavailable for the man who is best for you, right? You are still holding on to hope that, all right, I'll be his friend, hoping that things will work out later, and it blows up in your face later. You know, it's only acceptable to go that route if you're hoping for more, if that has actually been discussed. Meaning, if he's like, listen, right now is not a good time, let's just be friends, and once I get XYZ in order, we can revisit, you know, getting back together. And why that's one of the reasons why that's more acceptable is because if he's giving you specifics and he has an actual plan in place to address and resolve whatever those things are that are getting in the way, then it's more acceptable. But even then, you got to be real with yourself, because if you can't handle it, I would much rather you say, you know what? Go handle your business, do your thing, and when you're ready, hit me up. If I'm still available, we can discuss it. If not, so be it. But don't hold on when you know it's only going to drive you crazy. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on the 7 fastest ways to expose a man's intentions. In today's world, due to the internet and the way that we are so connected, which is good and has its bad, right? It decreases how many